here. I apologize for not being on camera tonight. I am thrilled to introduce to you Dr. DeSormo, Dean DeSormo. He is going to be speaking to you all on appreciative advising, which I am also very interested to hear about. This has been a very well received topic. I can see our participant numbers are growing. We might even fill the room, which is very exciting. We are recording this session, so we will post the recording for future reference and for you to spread the word and share what I am sure will be an amazing presentation. With that, I will turn this over.
Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces and some old acquaintances from some of my previous work with the university. So it's great to see some of you on with us tonight, and hopefully you get a lot out of this session and you find it meaningful. Feel free to type in the chat as we continue with the presentation tonight. But as Dr. Diane mentioned, my name is Donald DeSormo. Tonight we'll be discussing appreciative advising approaches and how this is a really excellent option for trying to build positive relationships, whether you're talking about students, faculty, staff, even in your personal life with family members or spouses, anything like that. Myself, I've been working in higher education since 2005. And before that, just a fun fact about me is I worked with sports. I worked with Florida Marlins and Miami Dolphins. Then it was through my educational journey that I really found the passion for trying to get into a career with higher education. And so the appreciative advising and the educational aspects of things that I learned helped me find what I really wanted to do. And so that's part of the process with the appreciative advising approach. And so, I do work as a dean for Keiser University in the graduate school currently. I have experience in online instruction, as well as on-campus living learning communities, working closely with faculty through undergrad experiences. I have enrollment management and student affairs experience, as well as a lot of experience with campus life and housing, student housing, which again had really helped me find out what I was really passionate about from what I wanted to do at a younger age to what I really grew into. And so learning really does happen at so many levels in the student life cycle, and it really takes an inclusive learning environment to really help bring out the strengths and build solid rapport and growth for lifelong learning. And it's not always an easy thing to accept and want to do. So I want to take a moment and just kind of see who is with us tonight. If you're able to share in the chat, I know we're not using Teams, so it'll be hard with the emojis. But if anybody wants to type in the chat and participate and answer one of these questions, just kind of want to get familiar with some of the audience tonight. So if you could go ahead and answer some of these questions, it'd be great to see. Dr. Osborne, thank you. Dr. Lindor, nice to see you as well. Does anybody want to share something that was the best part of their weekend, or something on their bucket list, maybe even their proudest achievement? Here we go. Resting and relaxing, always a positive thing, right? We all need rest and relaxation. Self-care is important. The happy face, Dr. Ocean, thank you. All right, Dr. Osborne, thumbs up. Perfect. All right, so it was great to see a little bit about what everybody has and interested in, a little bit when it comes to some of these questions as we move on here with the presentation. But I just wanted to get an opportunity for some individuals to share. All right, and just a reminder, please go on mute. And as we talked about, right, today we'll be looking at appreciative inquiry and appreciative advising as a framework, and to really adopt these into your teaching and learning efforts. And so this practice can be applied in many different aspects of your life. As I previously said, in regards to your family or your spouse or your friends, colleagues. Both options really help envision the potential for the goals we might have. And so really to understand the goals, we must really take a moment to understand shared values, what that process looks like, how we communicate, what are the different methods we can communicate in. And so if you can figure out the collaborative approach and a structure for really discovering the advising practices on a strengths-based approach, I think you'll find that a lot of things will be a lot more easier when you're building those rapport and you're trying to increase motivation and you're trying to have a proactive approach with whoever that individual may be through the learning process. You have an opportunity to really engage in a higher level of rapport building. And so at the end of this presentation, we'll talk a little bit about compassion and empathy and have some time for question and answer. But first, we're going to look at appreciative inquiry. So this is from the works of Cooperrider and Whitney. And this is one of the more popular methods that originally launched the appreciative advising resolution that happened. And so AI, to be short, is a collaborative strengths-based approach to change. So they view change with AI perspective from the human system of the positive core of the strengths that a team or individual or institution or organization could have. And so when you look more into like the SOAR process, for example, how do you get organizations to rise or how do you get individuals to rise? Well, with SOAR, you first look at a strengths dynamic and you try to leverage that competitive edge of resources from a strengths-based perspective. Then you get into the opportunities, aspirations, and results. So we can carefully really create a shared vision, right, and a shared encouragement of what that progress is in a more positive manner if the institution or the organization or the individual as the team is focusing on a specific goal from a positive perspective. And that is where we kind of catapult to the appreciative advising revolution, which is from the works of the co-founder, Dr. Bloom. The appreciative advising education movement is really about the intentional collaboration of the practice of asking clear, open-ended questions that can help others really optimize their educational experiences and their goals, again, in a positive manner. So the framework is designed in multiple ways, but within those multiple ways, it's more of a natural progression of building relationships. So for example, in the classroom, if you're here and you're one of the faculty members, or if you're a student here and you aspire to be a faculty member, or even if you're working with, again, somebody on an individual basis that you have personal connection with, the way you handle initiatives and the way you respond, the way you communicate really makes a lasting impression on an individual that you're working with. So if you're handling an academic advising or initiative or an issue that could be challenging, how do you approach individuals with a framework that they could trust you and that they could trust what they're learning and that it becomes part of the conversation and becomes trustworthy and respectful? And so if you're able to build the rapport, obviously the trust factors start to be a little bit easier to command. And so give me a yes in the chat if you agree that we each have a choice to make every day. All right, so we have some individuals that do realize that we do have an opportunity to make or break our choices, right? And obviously every day we have a choice. We can choose to be positive, or we can be negative, or we can choose how to respond to negative situations. But we need to be grateful at times and look for that silver lining, even if we are angry or we have fear, we have doubt, or even if there's insecurities with the decision or something that's happening. Is there a particular joy or positivity that we can still get out of a situation that helps us learn from the experience? And so many times it's challenging to stay focused, but with everything that's going on in your mind, and if you have a lot of thoughts going on, right, if you can write those things down on a note card, you can put them on a scrap piece of paper, you can kind of get them out your mind for a moment, you'll have the ability to kind of refocus and reorganize your energy in a positive way. And so again, I understand that each day and each opportunity we have is not easy, but you never know how much a simple smile can make someone's day that much brighter. Even if you're going into the grocery store, you're going into a store and you hold the door open behind you for somebody to come in after you. They could be having a really bad day, and that little tiny turn of events can help you be able to push forward, right, in a great way possible. Please remember to stay on mute. There's a little bit of background noise. So obviously life's going to happen, right? And there's different events that we can control, and there's some events that we can't control. But how we respond to those events, right, is the main key that I want you to try to get a hold of today, is taking that pause and taking that opportunity to say, okay, what does this look like? Because you have the power to create the mind shift of opportunity from within yourself and those around you. We can always, look to create the best from us and the best from others if we try to take a challenging situation and turn it into a learning experience. And so if you can do that, there's an opportunity to continue again, to build that rapport and build those connections, even positive. And so we have prepare, organize, work, evaluate, and rethink. I try to capitalize and remember that, because that's also a good positive framework when you're trying to remember basics of keeping focused with certain tasks. And so moving directly into the Appreciative Advising revolution, and really what that looks like as a whole, is it's really about first impressions, right? And so obviously we all know first impressions are critical, but some of us may not realize how important those first impressions are, and how, if you do not have a good first impression, how are you able to then recap and be able to repair or build a relationship if you get off on the wrong foot, right? Whether you're communicating via email, or you're communicating a phone or a text or in person, or a video recording, whatever it could be, right? First impressions are a major part of the trust process, right? And so at the start of the collaborative process of appreciative advising, we first have what is called the disarm phase. And so that is really about creating that first impression. And so we need to create time to really have a safe and welcoming environment for the individual that we could be working with. So if we start with a positive first impression, it helps build that trust and belief that we do care and that we are focused and that we're working together collaboratively. So to really start that process, we need to disarm and remove any roadblocks, any distractions, any things that could be, impacting the learning environment or the conversation. There's been probably many a times where we all haven't actively listened with a family member or a spouse or anybody in particular, where we were distracted by whether it's technology, screen time, or just our own thoughts and our own things that are going on in our mind, and not giving the ability to focus in on a conversation. So active listening obviously is key to the process. And so it takes effort to really stop multitasking at times. Put the phone down, be genuine, look somebody in the eye, understand, nod, follow along in the conversation. And then if you can ask open-ended questions to really help discover, to learn about the individual, learn about their strengths, learn about the passions, what's important to them, what is it that they need help with or they want to guide with? What are the abilities and skill sets that are important to that individual or that they want to continue to capitalize on? And so if you can focus it on that, then you can help create and really co-design a plan with those particular dreams that they may have, right? So first we disarm, we discover, we dream, we design. And so why do I say we design? Depending on the individual that you're working with. So if you're a professor or a faculty member, whatever the case may be, or an advisor, you've been through most likely where somebody is trying to go. So if you have a student you're working with that wants to be, like you one day and wants to work full time and wants to be a professor, you've been through those areas. So you know how to map that out. So that's why that co-design part of working together to go through that really helps everybody get through the experience and understand what it took to get somewhere and that it's achievable and that's realistic. Think about SMART goals from back in the day. A SMART goals process is effective. So if you can focus in on what that means, most likely you can be able to help individuals deliver those phases in a more positive manner because they can implement those plans because they're encouraged by you, they have your support, and if something goes wrong, there's a safety net to fall back on so that we can say, okay, well how do we be resilient? How do we move forward together? It's okay that we made a mistake. We can revise this goal and we can be able to get back on track. So working on results together helps people stay focused and achieve plans. And then if you're able to do that and achievements are made, there's the don't settle process, which is at the end is, okay, you made the goal, you did good, you got the commitments down, but what's the greatness? What's in store next? Is there a further expectation? Is there something else you want to continue to do? So those things are truly important to really the holistic part of this cycle. And so it's 6 phases of academic advising that can be applied to so many different areas. And so, for example, we're going to look right now that we know that it's not always easy to find the positive side in any given situation. But if you can drive towards that strength on a regular basis and break those habits to really move forward, there's so many different ways that we can create positive motivation for a competitive advantage and for people to think thoroughly through. And so in this particular example that we're looking at here, we have a non-traditional adult type learner, then we have Generation Z. So as you can see, there are some differences right off the bat with what is here and what people have to maybe adapt to. And so if you're looking at this from a student perspective and saying, okay, well, how do you get your ability to really relate to a large class when you have maybe multiple learners in the room, right? And not everybody is at the same starting point. So that's when you have to figure out how you're going to adapt to the particular styles that are there. And so if you can get to know the students and build relationships, whether you're advising or whether you're in the classroom, if you can tackle appreciative advising and the tools that are available for daily practice, the trust factor and the rapport that's being built and the plans that are being built together are collaborative in nature. So it helps everybody stay on the right path. So when we tell individuals to adapt to the learning practice or the lecture, we as educators also have to adapt to the learners that we have that we're working with. And so, non-traditional versus Generation Z learners, there are some things that are quite different. And so navigating that as an educator will not always be easy. And so you have to know your audience and you have to know who you're participating with to the best of your ability. And you have to know how to respond appropriately with taking a breath. If there is a challenge or if there is a negative situation, how do you turn that into an open-ended positive question that an individual can grow from? And that's the key to the approach, and staying more proactive through the situation. And so that brings us into really our resilient mind shift. And before I do that, I just want to take a look at the chat and see how we're doing here, if I've missed anything that has been coming through. Friendly, welcoming email, great advice. Dr. Linder, disarming right from the beginning, excellent advice. All right, perfect. Doesn't look like I missed any questions. We have a question though, how can AI improve advising? So definitely, Dr. Kramer, great advice. And so the rapport factor is what is key to the process. So if you follow the 6 phases with students that you may be advising yourself, when that student starts the program, if you're able to reach out in the beginning with your welcome letter and set a meeting and set an approach, whether it's a video call, whether it's a phone call, you want to disarm from the beginning and set that expectation that you are a real individual and you are a human and you're here and you're supportive of what your role is to assist a student with throughout their educational program. And you kind of want to set those expectations and build. And so as you continue to go through those phases, the more rapport and the more plans you're making, the research is showing that it will eventually lead to more positive results. And so it definitely promotes everything in the right direction. Yes, sometimes talking on the phone is challenging, setting Teams calls, virtual appointments, utilizing a one-on-one approach, or text messaging to set up a group motivation area. I have individuals that work in WhatsApp groups. I've seen students that I worked on mass group text messages with 4 or 5 different people together, because sometimes that motivation from each other as a peer-to-peer perspective works too. So I've seen advisors work with their students in pairs. And so all those things continue to push forward. And that's really the resiliency that we're talking about. And if you can reflect and create that open mind shift for yourself, that appreciative education is real and that there are resources that you can embrace to be able to do that, you can change some of the way of your teaching methods. You can move to more positive thinking approaches, and you can really trust the research and the process if you're able to be open-minded to what it entails. Because it's so hard to really find a silver lining in everything we do, but that's the difference between what type of career you have versus what type of career you may want, right? Because you have to be passionate, you have to have energy to be in the field that you want to be in. And so if you're able to do that, you're able to continue to help others shine and to help bring people the best out of everybody, right? That's at the end of the day, that's the compassion we're looking for. That's the resilience, because there are going to be troubles. That not everything is going to be easy. We are going to have roadblocks. There are going to be challenges. Life happens. So it's how do we work together to help someone stay on track with their goals when life gets in the way, right? Because it's very easy to say, you know what, this is not for me. I'm going to give up. I'm going to change careers. I'm going to change my major. I'm going to drop out of school, whatever it could be. And for me, when I was going to school and when I was working in sports and all that, and I was debating my career path, it was the energy and the staff members and faculty members that I met through living learning communities that really helped me find my path of what it is that I would want to continue to do versus what I thought was fun, because I grew up playing sports all my life and I thought that was the career I wanted to go into. But I noticed that I didn't have the same energy that I had towards education with that. And so you got to figure out what's the end result for an individual, because the commitment and the goal that they have is how we align the different methods of the teaching and the concepts to relate to those individuals for what they want out of life, right? Or what they want out of their career. And so the compassion, whether it's knowing if they're a musician or if they paint or if they're in the sports, what is it outside of education that they also enjoy doing? Are they going to school because they're trying to make a better situation for their family of five, right? Is that their networking? Is that their surround support system? Is that part of the reason why? So developing the support and the safety nets through the advising process helps everybody discover that it's okay to ask for help and that it's okay to communicate. And so if you can build that rapport, it's going to be a more of a proactive approach, because when something goes wrong, somebody's going to reach out and hopefully express the challenge that they're going through because they trust you as the advisor or the instructor of record. And you can be able to then provide advice, provide an action plan, provide a timeline, or you can referral in a proper way of what the next step may be for an individual. And so it's really important to figure out the different types of cycles that we have in the advising process and how you can relate to each one, because each one starts with you as the leader, especially with the disarm phase. If that first impression doesn't go well, picking up that trust factor is going to be a little bit difficult to then keep going. And so, it's easy to misinterpret something via email or via messaging than it would be if someone is speaking directly to you. So knowing that information will help you in the process. And so everyone has a story, right? And so we all are unique. We all have unique individuals, and those first impressions, they last. And so I know it may sound like a broken record, but that's really the first step into disarming and creating that gap that is usually there is from the beginning. So if you didn't build the rapport from the beginning, it's going to be harder to go back and to build that relationship if it didn't start from the beginning. And so the key is to start from the beginning. And as you're working through things, pause, think before you react, figure out the ways to implement open-ended questions that focus on a way to capitalize on the strengths that we have to overcome minor roadblocks that could be in place, right? So whether those roadblocks are big or small, to the individual, you don't know how those things affect them, because an individual can respond differently to different types of roadblocks, right? Depending on what they are. Some of us stay busy. We like to be engaged in something. We like the excuse. We like the distraction. Others may need additional more self-care, more time to really look into something before they can really bridge that gap, right? So remember that we have a choice every day, because we have daily hassles, we have challenges, but the correct approach would really be the get to attitude, because not everybody is lucky enough to do what we get to do. And so that's where the get to versus have to mind shift can be something that is supportive in nature, along with vision boards, right? Because goals are great to have, but when you put them in writing or you visualize them, whether they're virtual vision boards or whether you're printing stuff out, you're putting it on a poster, you can be able to do things in a more positive manner for yourself the right way by really envisioning that success or envisioning what that means. And so goals are great to have, but until we put them in writing, how are you going to commit to them? And so I would like to challenge everybody here that's with me today that if you can focus on one word vision for yourself, for your support efforts, what would that one word be? And if you're able to type that in the chat, that would be great. If you're willing to participate and type what you think that one word vision for yourself would be, because if we can find that driving force or that one word, again, those things can help us stay focused. They can help us stay on track. and they can help us keep progressing. So we talked a little bit about one of the questions earlier was something on your bucket list in the beginning. And so with your bucket list that you may have, maybe your one word relates to that specific bucket list, or that one word is going to help your focus for envisioning that success or what that true vision board would be. So do we have any one words that anybody would like to contribute? Please remember to stay on mute and type in the chat. A little bit of background noise was coming through. So for example, one of my one words that I tried to look at again this year for myself in 2025 was shine. I wanted to help others shine. And through that one word, I keep reminding myself when I'm going through something that could be challenging, you know, how do I help others still shine, and how do I stay focused with that? And so a one word grasp approach can really help you again stay impactful on that mind shift opportunity for yourself, because it's easy not to look for that silver lining. All right, I see kindness, encouragement, empathy. We have a lot of words that came through. So perfect. Innovation, progress. Those are great. So those are how we help lock in our commitments, right? Because our goals are good once we put them on the vision board, once we write them down, but then you have to be committed to it. So how do you lock it into place? How do you help individuals stay focused on remembering that why and remembering that goal to really move it forward? And so that is really one of the last steps in the process. Is we have the goals, right? And we're getting to the goals. Do we settle? Do we not settle? But how do we lock in those commitments? Because it's, again, it's easy to have to revise our plans at certain times. And so some key takeaways from tonight, because I did want to leave some Q&A, is that I really want to make sure that everyone understands the use of positive open-ended questions from the advising cycle process. Because if you can communicate in open-ended questions in a positive manner, that's the strengths-based approach to starting to build that rapport. That is what is going to help encourage meaningful conversations by asking those strength-based questions. And, you know, for example, instead of asking what challenges are you facing, you could ask what successes have you had? How can we build on those successes that happen? So that, again, that reframes kind of what is the silver lining, what is the strength. So again, we're looking at how we can shift. So shift that problem-focused mindset to more of a strength-based one. So instead of focusing on what may be lacking, highlight that capability of that resource or that skill that can continue to be a learning growth opportunity. So listening actively is really key to that, right? Because if you're actively listening, you're not thinking about what to say next to the individual. You're listening, those words are coming through, you're responding meaningfully, you're showing genuine care to the process, and together you're co-designing those plans of those goals. So that's personalized interactions. And so by taking the time and remembering key details that someone tells you, it's going to help them with their goals and overcome challenges that they may have, because they know you're listening, they know you care, and they know they can work through it because maybe you've been through a similar situation, and through things that maybe you worked on helped you overcome. So again, that type of skill set of inspiration and hope to focus on, you've done this before in other areas of your life. Now we're going to capitalize on that strength and figure out together how we work through it. And so regularly asking to reflect on progress is a good thing. So, you know, talk about areas that were great. And one of the questions earlier when I started off this presentation was, what was the best thing that happened to you this weekend? or what's your favorite thing on your bucket list. Those are all hopefully positive, open-ended type questions that can help steer the conversation in a positive way. And so we want to create those small wins, right? Help create a reframe the strategies for setbacks as learning opportunities and growth patterns, because we're not always going to get it the first time. It does take a little bit of effort. If something was easy, everybody would do it, right? So if we can create these small wins for us as we continue to go, we can really push things forward. And that's what the 6 phases of the advising process are all about, right? So creating a welcoming, non-judgmental environment, helping individuals identify strengths and passions, encouraging that envision for what does that ideal future look like, and then co-creating plans that are achievable for those goals. So smart, realistic goals. If you know that goal or that specific plan may be really, really hard to achieve, can we break it down into a smaller part first, make it more realistic, and then if we accomplish that, we don't settle and we keep moving forward with the larger goal at hand. So again, realistic is the part that you really want to focus on as you build that rapport and as you help co-design those plans, because the support helps give action, and then the safety net helps encourage that growth, right? Because if we don't get it the first time, that's okay. How we practice that resilient mindset and show the compassion and empathy to be able to revise and move forward with the plan. So again, it's about lifelong learning, continuous growth, and really these 6 phases of the advising process really break things down into a small, manageable amount for an individual to create that mind shift for themselves. And so, with that being said, some of you may have heard of John Gordon before. He is an author of The Energy Bus. One of our faculty members works with the company as well. And that individual has had a positive impact on my growth within the organization at Keiser, and how much I've engaged into appreciative education from some of this material that I've read and that I've researched on. So this quote here in particular inspires me to really remind how much we can impact others on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly, whatever it could be. Your words do have meaning, right? And your facial expressions do have value that come and relatable to an individual. So if you meet individuals where they are and you're able to build strong rapport, it's going to help put things in the right direction for us. So, I wanted to leave some time for a question and answer because this is an exciting topic, and there's a lot of best practices that could be shared amongst many individuals that are here tonight. And so, I want to thank you for attending. I hope that some of these takeaways and some of this information was valuable to you and meaningful. I'm going to drop one of the video links here into the chat so that you can be able to see that video from John Gordon, because it talks about the get to versus have to approach, which I touched on. So it is actually just a quick video. Go ahead and take a look at it at your own leisure, but it's definitely, I think, very inspiring about what we consider as a daily hassle versus the motivation we have to really how lucky we can be to do what we do on a daily practice. So any questions, any information that we can elaborate on, anybody have some conversation or anybody have anything that they would like to expand on a little bit? I can open it up for questions now. We can grab the microphone. If you would like to use the microphone, you can type in the chat. But that is the cliff notes on this presentation for tonight. More on Gen Z. Yes, so Gen Z is very definitely very exciting to know how to be able to do that, right? Gen Z versus non-traditional learners, and having the ability to relate to everybody is definitely a challenge. The key to the process will be, again, disarm, right? Starting at phase one, building that relationship from the beginning, and then being able to expand through each cycle. So if you go through each cycle of these 6 phases, you should still be able to make those connections. Yes, Dr. Nelson, active listening is definitely a big part of the whole process. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And if you don't have any questions, that is the end of the presentation about the 6 phases of appreciative advising and the practical methods we can utilize in our daily practices, whether you're a professor, advisor, or whether you're trying to look for that silver lining in your personal relationships with family, friends, or spouses. I always challenge you to focus on your one word, what's going to help you kind of reset when you're going through that negative mind frame. Again, for me, I say shine and then I reset. And I remember that my actions, my emotions, my facial expressions, they all have an effect and they all can impact somebody. And so I got to remember that for myself. And so that's kind of how I reset. And you can reset your words every year. They're very powerful. Words do have meaning and action. So hopefully uh, you got a little bit out of this tonight. And I appreciate everybody for being here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so very much. This was a wonderful presentation. I'm sure that many more faculty are going to enjoy watching this. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. Please come back and join us again at the RSC. We have some great stuff for you. Thank you.